Hey everybody, welcome back to TRB, the Resistance broadcast. We're the official Star Wars podcast of StarWarsNewsNet.com. Fitting. I'm John, thanks for joining us today. It's our discussion episode, and what we've been doing sort of quarterly, every few months is, or seasonally I should say, the state of Star Wars. So we're going to do since summer's right around the corner, we're going to do our summer edition of the state of Star Wars, kind of where we just have an open chat. We didn't pre-plan anything. We're just going to see what we think about what's going on with the franchise right now, especially now that it's sort of like this lull and we're not really sure what's going to happen next as the Bad Batch is churning on, carrying the torch for Star Wars content right now. The only Star Wars content right now in terms of animated or live action, as everything else is being filmed. But we're going to have a nice chat about that. Usually you seem to enjoy when we do these, so we'll see what happens. We really have no idea what we're going to talk about, but we're going to give our takes on the state of Star Wars as of June 2021. So thanks for joining us. Lacey and James are with me as always. Lacey, I see you are rocking our Mando Fan Show Season 2 shirt.
I am.
Which I miss The Mandalorian.
I was about to say that. I miss doing the Mando Fan Show. I really enjoy it. I know it's exhausting for us because it's just like such a crazy schedule with the reactions and then the show and then we're doing normal shows. And it's just, there's something so fun about a crazy time like that you're like, you think it's crazy before and then you're in it and you're like, this is insane. Oh my gosh. And then when it's over, you're like, oh, I kind of miss it.
It was really cool last year doing it because it was, very height of
and the live shows.
Time. And no one could go anywhere, so we were doing the live shows, we were home, that sort of thing. But yeah, I miss The Mandalorian in general. I miss doing the Mando Fan Show. And maybe, we'll talk a little bit about that later and what we think is going to be going on with The Mandalorian, because that's one of the things people have a lot of questions about. Did they secretly film it yet? Are they filming it now? A lot of fake rumors and stuff, so it's very interesting. But James, how you doing over there, buddy? What do you got going on? What's going on with you?
Well, I it's funny that you bring that up too, because I was just talking with someone about how I don't understand why they still do the 3 a.m. thing. Like they drop it at midnight or whatever. Like if you can turn on the switch, I don't understand why they don't do like
10 our time,
7 p.m. and 10, or something like that. Because I like in that prime time Friday night slot, you would probably see like double social media interaction because everybody would be like, oh, I'm not going to live tweet it at 3 a.m. or whatever. And then I'm not going to live tweet it at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Like, who's with me. But if it dropped like at 7 p.m., I feel like it would just like everybody would be getting all the reactions at the time. Tons of people would be doing like live streaming and all sorts of stuff. And I feel like it would just be so crazy, but I don't know. 3 a.m., or midnight, and I seem to think that's the best.
Yeah, it started with Netflix and Stranger Things. The 3 a.m. thing was like the first big one.
It's curious and maybe this will be part of our discussion later, but like the binge model versus the weekly release, and I prefer the weekly release. So.
You say it started with Netflix, but I thought Disney Plus was better, like in the sense that they saw that stuff and they were like, that's the wrong way to do it and we're gonna do it the right way, but yet for some reason they're still doing the midnight
the wrong
thing.
way with the time, because I remember Stranger Things season 3 came out over 4th of July weekend a couple of years ago, and it was the 3 a.m. drop, and that's even worse because that was the binge one where you were like, well, you're gonna get spoiled if you don't watch all of this in one sitting.
Stranger Things has been going on for so long, and it's been gone for so long that, like James pointed out recently,
do you care
really
anymore?
Bobby Brown's too old to play a young
well, that's one of the reasons they had to push back basically the Halloween episode in the timeline, because the kids were getting too old too fast, and the directors were like, we can't keep up with their age spurts.
Yeah, like the cute main character kid is all like awkward and gawky and like 6'7" now. It's funny.
It's funny too, because like it's not strange anymore. It's just normal things now. Like, we're just so used to it.
The show's gonna have to take place in 1998 now. That's how long it's been. But thanks for joining us, though. We're gonna have fun a bit later. We have Will of the Force coming up in a minute with James. But real quick, if you are watching us on YouTube, hello, how are you? You and you and you, not so much you, but you back there. Like the video. A lot of people watch, so we appreciate that. But if you don't mind hitting pause, or if you're a multitasker, seeing that thumbs up and going bing, and changing that to blue, I think it turns when you hit it.
Yep.
But either way, give us a like in the video. It really helps us out a lot. We're trying to get more focus over here. Trying to catch up our video audience to our audio audience. So thanks for that. And subscribe to the channel, of course, too, because we have a lot of cool videos. Lacey puts out her Lacey's Outpost unboxing videos. James does the book reviews and also the Bad Batch reaction show. If there's ever a lot of Star Wars news, I'll get back into the rumor and theory review, but we also do a lot of other cool stuff on the channel from Star Wars news and TRB. So, but yeah, you guys ready to get this thing going?
Yep.
All right. So James, will of the Force, let's do this.
I fear nothing, for all this, as the Force wills it.
Guys, before we get to it really quick, if you like what we do here on TRB, please consider supporting the podcast by becoming a patron. We just made some exciting new updates to the page benefits, so now might be a good time to check it out and sign up. Just head over to patreon.com/resistancebroadcast. Take a look at the tiers, pick which one maybe works best for you, and support the show, because we really appreciate all the support that we get, because it keeps the show going and allows us to plan for the future and everything else. So, guys, if you are a $5 patron, that's our second tier, or up, you can start submitting questions to the topics found in this feature of the show, Will of the Force. Let's get to it right now. This first one is coming from a Resistance Officer Patreon submission. Major Carol Cantwell. Carol wanted to know, will Bad Batch incorporate characters from Solo, providing us with a pseudo-prequel kind of to Solo, a little bit early of those characters, because we need more Val, is what Carol said. Lacey, I'm going to start with you on this one. What do you think about Solo characters showing up in Bad Batch?
I'm going to be weird and reverse Uno you, like play the reverse card and go back to you.
That's fairly... Oh, for me?
Yeah.
To me personally? Oh,
because you've been doing the reaction show, so I'm curious what you say.
I think it could be cool, but I think we're too early for most of these characters. Maybe not. Because I would think, like, if you're looking at Beckett, I guess maybe not. How old's Beckett in Solo? You want to say he's like 50?
I would say 50.
Yeah, so maybe not. So then I'd like to see Beckett. I was just thinking some of these characters seem 20s and 30s and stuff, so they'd be like 10 or something. And I was like, I don't know. I don't think they were in it quite yet. But no, thinking about Beckett, yeah, I bet. I'm going to say I hope we get Beckett. That would be cool. I'd like to see that connection right there. So then now that you've reversed it, I guess it goes to John, if we're playing Uno rules here.
Reverse.
Did you say you hope we get Beckett?
Yeah.
I would love that, only if Woody Harrelson voiced it. I feel like he has that, like, you can't fake, like, I know they do other people voicing our fame, like Harrison Ford and Han Solo and that sort of thing. But something about Beckett just appearing once, and he wasn't like prequelized with another actor or anything. It was just him. Woody Harrelson, like that voice, you got to get him back to do that. But and he'd be able to do it from home in like shorts and flip-flops with a mic. So why not? Yeah, but I think so, and I lean that way, not so much because of what we talked about with like Kira showing up in the comics, but they did animate and show Dryden Voss in the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
So I think, it's possible that they do that, just not necessarily for the sake of, we're going to dedicate an episode to Val and Beckett, and it's going to be an offshoot episode. But it's possible that characters, the Bad Batch, can run into these folks. We see that happen in Star Wars a bunch. So I'm going to lean towards we will see characters from Solo pop up, but I'm not sitting here saying it's going to be a big thing that's going to fulfill your wishes for more Thandaway Newton or Woody Harrelson or whoever else from Solo you feel like didn't get a big enough role. So I say yes, but probably not the way you were hoping, Carol. But great question. Loved it.
Lacey, then what do you think?
Oh, I hate to be this person. I'm going to say no, they won't. We will not see them. I hope we do, and this is my own personal want to see it, but I just don't think they will. I think they're on a certain trajectory that they already have Fennec Shand. They have all these other characters that are coming in. I don't think they're going to do it.
Yeah, John, are you sort of on that same page really quick? Because that's my thing. I think it would be really cool, and I want them to do that. But I'm not putting money on Beckett showing up in Bad Batch.
No, I'm not putting money on it by any stretch.
But do you think they will? Because I'm more with Lacey. That I don't think they will, but I want it.
The question was, will they?
Yeah.
Yeah. But they didn't specify which characters. So she said characters from Solo, and I think we could see characters from Solo. Okay. That doesn't mean it has to be Beckett. It doesn't mean, like I said, Dryden Voss popped in the Clone Wars. I could see Dryden Voss popping in Bad Batch. Why not?
Okay,
all right, cool.
So you think someone, it could be Rio Duran, it could be anybody.
People wanted more Val in Solo. Just fun fact, Val had 5 minutes and 15 seconds of screen time in Solo. Darth Vader had 9 minutes in A New Hope. Just put it in perspective.
Yeah. All right, we got another one here. Since we all believe he's going to show up in Obi-Wan Kenobi, will Liam Neeson appear in more than one episode? So, since John technically went first, I'm bouncing back at you, Lacey. What do you think?
I think he will. I think there's going to be a big reveal, and I think he's going to come back again at like an emotional moment that Obi-Wan needs support. Like the voices at the end of The Rise of Skywalker or something.
All right. So based on John's reaction, I'm going to say you agree with that?
Nah, he doesn't.
I do. I think.
Oh my gosh! What?
I think he'll appear quite early on to cast aside the when is he going to show up talk and allow the show to have its focus, and then he'll show up at the very end, a la Luke and Leia in Rise of Skywalker, you're ready to teach the boy thing, and just do his little, spirit show up thing. Whereas his earlier appearance, it'll be more of his big scenes, and then they'll have a quick cameo, like kind of the nod or something as Obi-Wan's looking at the twin suns, because they're going to have to end it with the twin sunset, and it'll be like that sort of thing. So he will appear in 2, but I think it'll be heavy early on and very quick at the very end.
Do you think they're going to end the show with dun, 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 dun.
You know it, and it's going to be Obi-Wan looking at that twin sunset, or imagine they end it if they end it with young Luke, I'll be pissed, because then that'll take away from Luke's big moment in A New Hope.
I love that we're, you're a Star Wars fan when you just go like this and then sing the song and everybody knows what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Tell me you're a Star Wars fan without telling me you're a Star Wars.
Yeah, I don't think he will. I think kind of what you speculated as what they might do. I think it's just like we're going to say when's he showing up, just like Ahsoka or something, like when's that happening? We know it's happening, and then they just devote an episode or like a section of an episode to be like, he goes to the place, he meets his master. It's an eye-opening experience, and without needing to show him and kind of like put him in your face, something's gonna happen that rings true, and we're gonna be like, oh, Obi-Wan wasn't going down that path, he met with his master again and his master set him straight, and now that he's doing the right thing, we know it will call back, and maybe they'll play his theme or something like that, and we'll in that moment recognize that it's Qui-Gon is here with us even though we're not seeing him. I just think he'll have a presence in after he has made his his appearance, but I think he only shows up in one episode, is specifically one section. I don't think
he'll have a presence once he's made his presence known.
Once he's made his
in the present time of the episode.
Once and it'll be on Christmas so that he can give out his presents.
Wow.
All right, so that's everybody on that one. We got another Resistance officer question. This one's coming from Mike Darth Hurricane Waldron. Mike wanted to know, will Boba Fett be a bad guy, air quotes, or someone seeking redemption and righting his wrongs in the Book of Boba Fett? So John, let's start with you on this one. What do you think about Boba Fett, and if he'll be a bad guy or anti-hero?
I'm more wondering if Boba Fett likes unlimited supplies of broccoli or not. That's for you, Darth Hurricane. Big broccoli guy. That's all I'm gonna say.
Plain broccoli. Let's be clear.
Just plain broccoli. Icing on the cake. Plain broccoli. I hope bad guy. Here's the thing, Mike. Star Wars seems really heavy onto this idea of everyone could be redeemed sort of thing. But I think it's okay for someone to just be like, you know what? I want to be a criminal, and that's my choice. And you can still flesh out a great story with someone. They don't have to find a redemption or see the light or anything like that. Sometimes you need people to have the edge for the long haul. And I think that helps really good storytelling. So I like Boba Fett when he's doing bad things. I liked his run in The Mandalorian, but he almost felt like the past his prime dad sort of guy, except that one scene in the hills. But he seemed jokey and it was fun. But I want to see Boba Fett be a you know what and do some serious bad things. I think that'd be more interesting. And by the look of how he took that throne, he doesn't look like that much of a good guy to me. So I don't know. I'm leaning towards
killing the bad guy before Tuna.
I hope he will be a bad guy.
Yeah. Lacey, bad guy?
I think he's totally going to be a bad guy. He's not going to be a soft, let's do the right thing guy. I think he did that with The Mandalorian because a child was involved and he felt for Grogu because he saw himself a little bit in Grogu as someone with trying to find their way and, trying to right the feeling of, he recognized that his dad couldn't protect him and he watched his dad die. So I get that whole thing happened. They needed Boba Fett because he had the ship. Seeing as Razor Crest is gone, R.I.P. You can't have a series where Robert Rodriguez is involved after he directed one of the most badass episodes of Star Wars we've ever seen with one of the most crazy, intense fight scenes where he did not hold back at all and then be like, yeah, I'll take part in this series if he's not going to be that, because Robert Rodriguez said that he wanted Boba Fett to be super badass and he wanted him to be redeemed in the most awesome way, and he shot it with his kids and he backhanding stormtroopers and stuff. He's not going to be a good guy. He's going to be a bad guy. And to me, Book of Boba Fett reads like a revenge story of righting wrongs that were done against him or getting what he deserves, kind of like a Punisher type story. So that's how I'm seeing it.
That's an interesting line to toe, because he was technically beating up the bad guys doing his badass thing in Mandalorian. So he was kind of being on the good guy side of things. But I hope he does exactly what you just said, but does it against people we like.
He also just got his armor back, though. So he was fighting those stormtroopers with his own armor, being I'm back.
Yeah.
And
I
everybody
think,
also beats up on stormtroopers no matter what. So...
Yeah, I think that when you think about Boba Fett and the term bounty hunter, especially in Star Wars, it is somebody where they're they ride the line, it's about the mission and just getting the mission done and stuff like that. But really, how many bounty hunters have there been that's been good moral bounty hunters?
The Mandalorian is the one. That's the story we've gotten. With The Mandalorian.
He almost became
but
that
I'm
way
saying that's why they won't retell that story. It's been told.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah. But I guess my thought is just that when it almost feels like he isn't a bounty hunter anymore in a way, he kind of just stopped that and now he's just doing the Grogu thing. But to me, when I think of all the bounty hunters like Bosk and Aura Singh and all of them, IG-88 and stuff, they all seem like they're on the bad side. They're all if you were to line up the heroes and villains, you're gonna see these characters on that side. And I think you lose some of that character's allure if you play them on the good side of bounty hunting and they only do the right and moral bounty, like rescuing children from villagers or not villagers but slave traders or something, you know what I mean? They're only doing it for the right reasons. Pirates. And so I think there's something that they can really play into where you have a bounty hunter going in and he's like killing rebels, or whatever. And you're like, oh man, this is like an interesting twist on what we've gotten classically from Star Wars. I think Book of Boba Fett really has a good opportunity to showcase that. And I think they would squander if they tried to make Boba Fett a hero when part of his lore for decades has been that he's like borderline like bad guy,
Well, Beckett's so cool because he's a bad guy. Like he just does whatever he wants. He's selfish.
That's so real quick. I want an isolated video clip or GIF of when Han asked Beckett why, because he's just so hurt, and it's like the perfect reaction to like when someone like burns you. You're like, why? But James, if you'll allow me, we have a guest who wants to answer this Will of the Force question. So I'm gonna bring him in now. Harrison Ford is here on the show. Harrison, will Boba Fett be a bad guy in the Book of Boba Fett?
I don't care.
All right, so there you go. He does not care. He did a 2-for-1 deal, so the price was only for one appearance, and he showed up twice. So we want to thank Harrison Ford for that. We didn't kill him or hurt him with a hydraulic door, and away he goes. So thank you, Mr. Ford, for showing up on TRB. We appreciate it. James, thanks for the time.
Yeah. We've got one more question, guys.
How many times are you going to do
last
that?
One is, like 6 weeks in, like, it turns out there was a buy one, get one free deal, and
I'll know when to pepper it in. They like it.
All right, so we have...
leave a comment if you like it.
John. We've seen an ignited lightsaber in every live-action Star Wars project to date. Will we see one in Andor? And just for fun, if you have an idea of who you think that might be that does it, feel free to make a guess. Lacey, this one's starting with you. Ignited lightsaber in Andor? Take all the time you need.
I'm just blanking right now. I think we will at some point. I don't have any idea who it would be.
Can we say season 1?
I think we will. I think at some point we're going to see a lightsaber.
All right. Then John, what do you think?
I think we're breaking the mold finally. I think we will not see an ignited lightsaber in season 1 of The Mandalorian. Or Andor. Jesus.
Oh my God.
Andor-Lorian.
Right. But you said season 1. So we're leaving it to season 1. Okay.
Because I think ultimately we're like, we don't know how long this show's going to last, and it could be forever.
K2SO rolls up with a lightsaber in season 2.
General Andor.
Yeah, I'm with
Here's a fresh one.
I'm with John on this, that I think they are going to break tradition. I think that we were kind of surprised, or I guess we should say we weren't surprised. We didn't expect there to be lightsabers in Rogue One, and they kind of managed to pull it off. Yeah, but both of them. But specifically in Rogue One, because it was very political and war driven, more so than the story and the Jedi and all that other stuff. So we were kind of surprised when they ended up doing it. But I think if they're going to do a series about Andor and really even lean into it further, I think the espionage and everything else that, trying to make this like Captain America Winter Soldier and just kind of like change the tone up just a hair, you know what I mean? Just for it to still very clearly be Star Wars, but like maybe omit certain things. Those are the kind of things I think you can omit. You can omit the lightsabers for.
I think they're going to show Vader at some point.
That's a fair bet. So you definitely, if one shows up, I think I'm with you that it's probably
going to be Vader's. Yeah, I think it's just an easy thing to throw in there that fans will lose their minds.
Andor never at any point seems like he doesn't or does know who Vader is. So it's very well possible that he just does. He's heard of the guy, he knows he's around, but he never
a hologram, anything where he's, they get a video of what he's capable of.
And it could be a sequence where Cassian's not there, just like in Rogue One.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I think Vader's going to show up at some point. It's an easy thing for them to do. Where
I'll never say no to Vader.
Fans will lose their minds, just like we did in the theater with Rogue One. Like, no matter what it is, if he's wrecking house, it's going to happen.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is it for Will of the Force. Thanks to all the officers who submitted questions, but specifically, I guess, Carol and Mike. Congrats on getting picked and giving us good questions. So we're moving on to the next section. John, this is our State of the Star Wars, right? Discussion.
Yes.
Let's go.
Carol, that's so funny. Carol and Mike, that's the Bradys, right?
Oh, yeah.
When you said that, I was like, what?
Next week, our special guest will be Alice.
All right. And Sam the Butcher. Okay.
Obi-Wan once thought as you do.
Yeah, every once in a while, like I said at the top, every 3 months or so, we do a seasonal State of Star Wars where we give our takes on where the franchise stands, quite literally. So this is now our summer edition. So I'll kick things off just by saying, I feel like something big can be coming announcement-wise, just because it's been so dry, not even just from a news perspective, but just any buzz about Star Wars. Like the Bad Batch came out, and I feel like that has tempered a bit.
It definitely has.
It's chugging along, but it's not carrying the way something like The Mandalorian has, in terms of like must watch immediately, like, you know, and for diehard animated fans, yes, but the every Star Wars fan is not like, I gotta watch this as soon as possible. From my perspective, of how I see fans interact.
I agree. I think Mandalorian is one of those shows that people see, and as the season was going on, they were like, oh, man, I gotta watch that. I gotta get into that.
And I feel like, I don't know, I'm not saying that something big's gonna happen in terms of like they're gonna announce the next movie or something like that soon, because I do feel like a part of me feels like they are stacking the deck and playing the waiting game and saying like, yeah, we'll take the PR hits and let Marvel keep killing it, and we'll sleep on what we have, and then we'll make next May or next year 2022 like our time or something like that. Because I do feel like, you know, fans, I know we've talked to some fans that are like, yeah, I'm souring on Star Wars a little stale on Star Wars, I'm not feeling it right now. And that makes sense because, you know, we're after the Skywalker saga. Mandalorian came. It's now, you know, 6 months ago since the Luke reveal. We had the Bad Batch, but that's pretty much it. And I get that, but I feel like next year is going to be so big for Star Wars, and it's going to kick off the next decade of amazing content. So, like us doing the podcast, obviously we're all in always, but I feel like fans who are dialed in kind of have that. You feel that itch and that itch in the air, you know, celebration's back and we're going to go full bore celebration. And they got all these shows they're filming right now, but we don't know much about them. I feel like 2022 is going to be an absolutely monster year for Star Wars. And I hope it doesn't come in a blast and then dies down again. I hope we get like 8 years of just getting punched in the face with like awesome Star Wars content. That's my hope. I don't like the ebbs and flows because we see Marvel do it. And I know Star Wars is I consider Star Wars a way different type of storytelling, and you don't branch it out as much as maybe Marvel does, or, you know, reboot things and multiverses. But Star Wars, I think, has found a way where it first was a movie a year, maybe 2 movies a year. That was like their plan. Now with the Disney Plus thing, I feel like they can really like, okay, we can do a lot here and put out monster movies like once every 3 years, like a Rogue Squadron, blah, blah, blah. So I'm hoping it kicks off next year and just steamrolls through like 2030. And then we get like the Rey and Finn return movie or something like that. And I hope they're already starting to brew those seeds a little bit about getting them back. So who knows?
Go ahead, James.
No, I think you're right that for oddly enough, it feels like we're in a very slow period. I was going to say about the Bad Batch though. I have been surprised at the people who are watching Bad Batch. I thought more people would watch Clone Wars, you know? And it seems like people are coming out of the woodwork. People that I didn't even know were Star Wars fans. And I know that seems crazy. You'd think they would pop up around like Mandalorian time or something like that, but it's weird. They're always like, hey, you watching Bad Batch? And I'm like, yeah, I'm watching you're watching Bad Batch? Like, what is happening?
Oh, that's cool, man.
Yeah. But I mean, I think you're right in general, though. I mean, like it's never gonna be because it's not a live action series. But we are getting ready to head into the potential of Book of Boba Fett, Mandalorian season 3, Obi-Wan, and Andor, like all like back to back, you know. And I think that's huge for Star Wars. And then if that continues through, which hopefully it does, I mean, Andor season 2, Mandalorian season 4, and then everything else like Ahsoka and Acolyte and all this other stuff. If that keeps going in that rhythm, then those movies are going to start showing up sooner than you think.
Yes.
Because it's only going to be like
point.
a 3-month period until we're at the next live action Star Wars thing. And we're like, oh man, this is awesome. And then like, whoa, that Patty Jenkins thing comes out like next year, you know? I think it's going to, those things are going to come up quick. And technically it's funny too, because I was talking to someone about how television is kind of like taking over and it's like the next foreseeable future. And I might get an eye roll here or whatever, but I was like, the only things they have for movies announced is I was like, there's the Patty Jenkins thing. And I was like, oh, well, there's the Taika thing too. Oh, well, there's the Kevin Feige thing. And I guess they mentioned like a ton of stuff with Rian Johnson. I was like, okay, maybe the live action movie thing isn't as dead as like I was kind of picturing. It does seem like they do have a lot that they've announced as far as like movies. We just don't know a lot about them yet. They're not like right around the corner.
I think the only thing I'll say about the movies that it seems, at least speculation wise, like educated guessing is, you know, Rogue Squadron seems like it's going to be an isolated one-shot film. And Taika, if I had to guess, he's doing just like my movie. He's not starting some sort of like series of films or anything. So I wonder if their new focus now, Lacey, I want your thoughts on this, like to do like, before they bring back Rey, which we all think they are, just do like, that's one movie in itself, that's one movie in itself, that's one movie in itself sort of thing. Not this, it's a Star Wars story thing, but just like boom, boom.
Do you think, this goes for you too, Lacey, to get you into this, do you think that Taika's movie is what they were going to do with Benioff and Weiss? Like they're like, we were developing this with them, it didn't work out, but we want to do this.
The logo to me seems like something that Taika's coming up on his own. Like he pitched an idea to them and was like, how about this? Like, I love the holiday special. What if we did something crazy like that? And they were like, okay. Like that's what the logo says to me. And again, that's all we have at this point. Patty Jenkins thing.
Yeah, there was that like geometric thing, and I think people were pointing to like the book that had that.
It looked like Schoolhouse Rock. That's what it looks like.
Well,
to me.
that thing. Yeah, I know what you're talking about there. I guess I was thinking more of that like weird, crazy geometric thing.
The thing they had behind Kathleen Kennedy when she was talking about
floating cube thing or something. Yeah, and that was like connected to an Origin of the Jedi story or something along those lines. And I was like, oh, that reminds me of the Benioff and Weiss stuff.
Yeah, I guess it just looked very Ragnarok to me. Like it looked very like quirky and colorful and out there and like something you can't even imagine. He's going to take it to a level that you don't know. And then you have Patty Jenkins, who's done Wonder Woman. Her movie is very much her. Like if you look at her description of what she's going to do and the idea of it, to me is like, okay, it sounds like to me she's doing Wonder Woman for pilots for Star Wars. Like that's what it sounds like. As for the state of Star Wars, I think you're both totally right in that the focus right now is on TV, and Disney said that last year when they did the investor day that they're putting all their time and effort into streaming right now because not only are they making product, but they're getting a consistent, payment from you guys every month that you have Disney Plus. It's just tough. And, we kind of in the state of Star Wars things, we always get into this conversation of like Marvel versus Star Wars and what we would like to see and what could happen. And I think it's unavoidable, not just because they're both kind of pop culture things, but because they fall under the same umbrella of Disney. You would think that then Disney would replicate the same process that they've had such success with Marvel, but they're not. And it's kind of crazy, but I think that the focus definitely is on TV and the movies are going to come eventually. But right now, Disney's looking at Marvel and going, you know what? Marvel's got their formula. It works. They're making so much money. We're going to go with the movies that work. And we know that the TV stuff has worked really well with Star Wars, so let's keep doing that. And now they're getting Marvel into the TV side, and Marvel's been killing it at that. Like, I can't wait to watch Loki, which came out yesterday. I'm sure I've already seen it at this point, but I'm pumped to see where that series goes. It looks crazy, like something they've never done before. And I can't help as a Marvel and Star Wars fan to look at that and go, okay, so what's Star Wars going to do next? Because if Marvel's now caught up to the whole TV and like doing the cinematic TV story, what's the next step?
Well, what I find the most interesting is you have WandaVision, which was a one-off.
Yep.
There's a bunch of these that are going to be one and done.
I don't know if Soldier 2 is one off.
Yeah, that is right. They're not doing another one of that.
No, they're doing
right?
a Captain America 4.
Yeah.
With
so then you have
movie,
so then you have the rundown of the Star Wars series, which are all were all presented as, most of them were presented as limited or special event series. Obi-Wan, Lando, Ahsoka,
Boba Fett.
Acolyte, Book of Boba Fett, I believe. There may be, I'm not positive on that because the crew stuff said season 1, but that could also just be a thing. Rangers is on the shelf right now.
Ahsoka's going to be probably one series.
Yeah, I think Andor is the only one that we know of that is going to be multiple seasons. So that begs the question: what other series?
Right.
And, of course, Mandalorian. What are they cooking up right now? So there's because those series are going to be filmed and out, and then people are going to be like, well, what's next? And that means whatever is next, they are having discussions about, and they're bringing talent in now to line up to do that. Been. So the next big investors meeting, whether that's this December or they wait till Celebration to say like, here's that big black screen behind Kathleen Kennedy, show, like, because we have the slate that's probably going to all run through 2022 and 2023, and then before you know it, 2023 is here. All those shows are already out. The one and dones are done. And then you have Rogue Squadron comes out. So you got your movie fix. And then they're going to be like, we need 2024. We need 2025. And that's the next things I'm really excited to hear about. And I know that sounds crazy because it's only 2021 now. But that's like being, in 1999 and seeing The Phantom Menace and being like, I'm excited for Attack of the Clones, which is coming out in 3 years. So I'm very excited for what they're cooking up now. But I'm curious to see, now that they know that this works, like Mandalorian crushed it, and people are really excited about Andor. Maybe they up it a little bit and do more like Marvel's doing, and we get just a flurry of more Star Wars series in 2024 and for releasing in like 2024 and 2025, leading up to that next movie, like the Taika movie. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be really interesting to find out when we find out about that next slate. And who knows, is Kathleen Kennedy going to want to be around for that? She'll be in her 70s at that point. The way she produces stuff, I hope so. But it's going to be, I think the next 3-4 years in Star Wars is going to be very, very interesting for me behind the executive aspect, because now you have Dave Filoni having that role as a creative executive. What's his involvement going to do to shape that side of things? Because I personally think he's done with animation in terms of like big stuff, and we'll get into that later.
Right.
And then what's going on with their reaction to not only their success, but also like Marvel's success and over the overall success of Disney Plus.
I think the Disney Investor Day could come in the fall, actually, instead of the winter. I think the winter one came up last year because they were trying to push those earnings up before the end of the year, because they had lost a lot of money in 2020.
But do you think they'll be ready to announce stuff then, confident enough, or would they want to wait for Celebration for that?
I don't think it's whether they're ready or not. I think it's whether mom and dad at Disney go, hey, we need some stuff to announce.
You don't think there's trepidation, though? Like, we've seen you announce stuff that hasn't worked, and it just happened recently.
There might be, but I think that they might push them to announce something. But the reason I was looking down, by the way, was because I was looking up when the one before that was, the Disney Investor Day, which was April 2019. So the Disney Investor Day in 2019 was April 11th. And then the second one...
Which was during Celebration.
Right, which then this past year was in December. Christmas, I'm saying for 2021, I could see them doing that in the fall to kind of pick up the second half of the year or the last 2 quarters.
I'm just saying, James, like, I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but I think we aren't even close to the level of excitement we're going to be as Star Wars fans for. Well, like, we haven't even heard of the best stuff we're going to get yet.
Next May is going to be nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what I was thinking about while you guys were explaining that is, they say you don't really want to be reactionary when you're like a studio or something like that. And I was kind of thinking, like, is Lucasfilm reactionary in the sense of, like, John, you mentioned earlier, like, hey, we're doing one movie a year and, hopefully we can ramp that up. And then they had a bad movie, and it like shook everything up and they're like fell apart and they're like, oh no, what are we going to do? We don't know how to manage anything. They're like, Solo, December, what? You're crazy. And then like everything's nuts. And then meanwhile, they have like this subdivision that seemingly isn't reporting anything crazy or anything. It's the people working on The Mandalorian. When The Mandalorian hits and it does well, it's like, I feel like Lucasfilm like turned around, they look forward and they're like, let's just do that. And then they announce all these crazy shows. And it's like, okay, so I guess you had a hit and now all these shows are announced, and then I can almost see like, oh, but Rangers of the New Republic didn't end up happening. A lot of these were one season and they went by like that, so it really wasn't even as crazy of a thing as we maybe built them up to be because we hyped them. And then I don't know, just Ahsoka ended up being not good or something, you know what I mean, or something like that, and they hit another roadblock, and then they're like, "What do we do?"
We're not doing TV anymore.
Yeah, we're done with TV, guys. That was fun. And then like
we were always a movie franchise. Anyway.
I know, like so. I don't know. It almost at this point, like the last time we did this, we were stoked because we're like, hey, we were worried. Now it feels like they have a good grasp on everything, but I'm thinking about it, and I've been thinking about it recently, like how reactionary is Lucasfilm, and as soon as one of these shows doesn't do Mandalorian numbers, are they going to be like, oh, do we really want to be doing all these shows? We're spending a lot of money on Andor, and then people didn't even really like it, or whatever.
Hear me out, because I know people are like, yeah, Dave Filoni's doing the natural progression, and eventually he's going to be directing movies or whatever. So he has a creative executive director role. I may switch those terms around, but
no, I think it's
executive creative director.
Creative director. Okay.
Yeah.
He obviously is heavily involved in what's going on with the new series and pairing with Favreau and stuff. I feel like even though he's in that role, it's very series focused, and he's always been a serialized storyteller and that sort of thing. So I don't know what that means, if it means anything in terms of him getting that role, if that means that the stress is going to be on the series stuff, or they're going to groom him to help develop movies. Because, yeah, he did the Clone Wars movie. Granted, that's like 3 episodes of the Clone Wars just in a...
And how much control did he have at that point, really?
I agree. He directed it, but yeah, I agree with you completely. Yeah. So I don't know if I'm overthinking that. I don't know what you guys think about that. Like Filoni having that role, like, do you think they're moving him up, or do you think they're like, this is what you're great at and we need someone in that role because we're doing almost 90% of our stuff's going to be that? You know what I'm saying?
I don't think that...
Or is it just the George Lucas thing? Like, he's the understudy and this is the right thing for fans and,
Yeah, I mean, it's a title and the title sounds really crazy. Executive Creative Director. That's,
I wish I had
nuts.
that role.
Yeah, for sure. But I don't know. I always kind of get this vibe that, like, almost in the sense, like, Kathleen Kennedy is, like, kind of in control of things. It's like, not really. She's kind of letting people do their thing, right? I almost feel like Dave Filoni's role is going to be very similar to that, where it's like, he's in every meeting and he says things, and when he says them, people listen. And they take to heart really carefully what he's saying. And he has the ability to go into a room and say, I'm not feeling this, and I think you need to refocus and get it going this direction. And then when that inevitably is a hit, all those people involved are going to be like, Dave Filoni, he's the man. He steered us right. And then he's going to get a ton of credit. It rightfully should, because he corrected the ship in the same way that like an executive producer or president, would as well. Like those are Kathleen Kennedy's movies. And we sometimes look over that because we say it's JJ. But remember, Kathleen is paying for them. She hired JJ to be in control, and she's in those meetings. And when JJ says, I'll go back to Benioff and Weiss, or not Benioff and Weiss, I'm sorry, Lord and Miller. When they say they want to do it this way, and she goes, that's not the direction, so you need to steer it this way. That is kind of how I think Dave Filoni's going to be. I think he's going to be involved to that degree. He now has the clout to come in and kind of change the direction on a lot of things involving Lucasfilm. And I recently heard this too. Remember, that's not a Star Wars position that he got. That is a Lucasfilm position. Right. Yeah, so he has now the autonomy to say, I think this indie thing is going in the wrong direction. I think this Willow thing needs to be like this. That's a Lucasfilm position, and I think that's interesting.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, that is a great point. Lacey, what? Now, I know you're not a big animation fan, but you seem to grow to really like Filoni through hearing him and how he approached things with The Mandalorian and stuff. So in terms of like James's point, do you feel comforted in that idea of Filoni kind of being like knowing which buttons to push and that side of things as an executive?
I don't know if it's comfort. I think that's I don't know. I don't know if that's the right word. I think that role and him being in that role, if James is explaining it like correctly, his role is, if his role is like, oh yeah, this is the right way, this isn't the right way, I think it adds some credit and leverage to fans that, hey, he's making the right choice. Because I feel like over the past few years, every time something's happened, like with Lord and Miller or anybody else, and Kathleen's had to make the decision that it's not a good fit, people immediately go, well, she doesn't know what she's talking about. And I'm not saying that she doesn't at all. I defend every decision she's ever made that is the right decision. She knows what she's doing. But I feel like with Dave, where he comes from that, we talk about this a lot, he comes from like the George background, that when he said something doesn't work, I feel like people are more likely to believe him.
Yeah,
he's got cred.
Yeah,
and this relates to like let's use another creative executive director, Doug Chiang or something like that.
You trust everything he says. If Doug's like, the droid looks like this, you go, of course the droid looks like this. That's what
correct. Yeah. And it's going to be like, you're going to see that interview where it's like, well, we had some things come in and it wasn't feeling right. So I thought to myself, what if we invert it, or whatever. Yeah, and it's like, that's this big, crazy inspirational moment that created what the TIE fighter looks like, or who knows. But the thing is like, nobody thinks Doug's running Lucasfilm. And nobody think that Doug at the end of the day is like, exactly, this is my point though with Filoni as well, is like, I don't think anybody's going to expect that is a role where he's the one controlling the story or anything like that. Yeah.
Well, he's also not firing directors and that sort of thing. Like
that would be interesting to hear.
You have, Michelle Redjwan is still in charge of live action development.
Yeah.
So I really think Filoni's thing is more of story based. And I've said this a while ago, and I'm not saying that's going to be the case or anything, but you get this feeling that the story group thing as it was created is evolving. And it may be more of a top heavy pyramid than a circular group of this story group who like, Matt Martin, you're doing theme park and comic book stuff, and you're doing this. I think it is going to be a cohesive thing still, and still going to exist. I'm not saying they're getting rid of the story group. I think they do a tremendous job. I mean, what they're able to connect is just outrageous, and how they plan it out like years in advance and all that stuff. But
I just think story group was pitched to us the wrong way, like calling it story group and not like actually group.
Yeah, right.
That like kind of steers the problems and the connectivity issues story group. You hear it and you're like, oh, so like the sequel trilogy is they wrote that out. It's like, no, it's not at all that.
But I see like Dave Filoni being the like the final word on those types of things, and like you saw shades of it in the Mandalorian, like the gallery. I remember Lacey, we were laughing at Favreau suggesting something tongue in cheek, and Filoni laughing, saying like, "We can't do that, man."
Yeah,
like,
no way.
I forget what it was, but he
well,
just
no,
goes,
it was the lights out McClunky thing.
Oh yeah, you wanted to add McClunky to it.
Yeah, he's like, so, what if he says McClunky? And he's like, what if that means like lights out? But it's like literally.
Yeah,
and he was like, no.
That was
like,
it.
You're not
But then
serious.
you have the other things, you know, the scene I think about all the time is when Jon Favreau and Dave are sitting there talking about Stormtrooper helmets. He's like, oh yeah, obviously this is a callback to this. And Favreau's like, what? No? Huh?
Oh, Filoni said, you mean?
Right. No,
Yeah.
Filoni said that it was a callback to whatever, and Favreau was like,
Favreau didn't
what are
pick
you?
up on
yeah,
it?
he was like, what are you talking about? So like,
He's like,
that's
a
the kind of
deep
thing
cut.
that, that's what he's saying is like, and
Yeah.
he, as in James, is saying is like, Filoni's coming in and being that person to not necessarily tell them what to do, but to be like, this makes sense, this doesn't make sense.
Right. Yeah, it's going to be. I want to hear more.
Or how can you
like,
make it work? That's the other thing. I think James put it really well last week, which was that Filoni's the person that makes people care about what this is.
He can steer the heart of Star Wars in the right direction. Like we're not focusing on the right things. We don't lose the
message of hope
and
families and stuff like that, which is what George always wanted.
Coming of age,
right, and that's what George always wanted. And I think we all agree, not just the three of us, but all Star Wars fans that watched the Gallery series, Filoni shined in every episode of that series because he went down to those deeper meanings, into the messaging, into what George wanted. So there is this kind of like security blanket feeling when Dave Filoni is mentioned. I guess that's kind of what you were saying, John, with like a comfort of he knows Star Wars in and out.
It's reassurance that we're okay, we're in good hands.
And I think that that's what that title is hey, we need one person that can be that last stop, like James said, to be like no and yes on something, you know? No, Ahsoka can't be bright pink and run in and stab, Yoda. Like, that can't happen.
You have the guys in Skywalker Sound and ILM and the artists and stuff who a lot of them have been there for decades. So those are still very much rooted in, George Lucas put those people in those spots.
Right,
and that's
John Knoll and Doug Chiang,
Yes. Hal Hickel was around the prequels, and Rob Bordeaux, and all these people who've been there for a very long time now are very much entrenched in the George Lucas appointment of how he wanted things to be. But the creative side is not so much. So having Filoni vaulted into that levels that ground in the cred and the because as much as people want to say, like, well, George Lucas sold it and Star Wars needs to move on, Star Wars needs to change and stuff. No, it doesn't. You can tell new stories, but it's always going to be rooted in that
hope,
that fantasy element of coming of age and making the right choice between good and evil. Very simplistic story that you can complicate with a lot of themes and stuff like that. But George Lucas always kept it a very simple thing where it's a story for kids to teach them to make the right decisions. And when you're coming of age and you're faced with very difficult choices at a very difficult time in your life, to learn the right path to take. And that's what Star Wars really is. And like you said, Lacey, when Filoni says those simple little things like that, we're all just like, all right.
Yeah.
Like the Antonio Banderas, like, yes. Right. It's interesting. But I hope they do reveal more of what his role is. Like, does it have to be a secret? Like, it'd be nice to like get an idea of like, so when we see a movie and it says like, what his involvement was or something.
Yeah,
like,
I don't think they will because we've never gotten that from John Knoll.
Imagine if we did a reality series.
His job description.
A reality series where they followed around Dave Filoni on a regular basis. I'd love that show. Oh my God.
They were very transparent about Michelle Redwan's role with The Rise of Skywalker. Like, she was very involved in that documentary and stuff.
Yeah.
So,
I also wanted to bring up too, like, I feel like and maybe I'm wrong, like this could always maybe be better, I don't know, but I feel like the general connectivity of Star Wars, which is one of the things that really drew me to it in the first place. Like I remember flipping through a comic book, and I turned the page, and there was Tarkin's ship that I had read about in a book, and I'm like, there it is, I'm seeing it in person. Like I think this is the first visual appearance of this ship. That's really cool. And that like won me over when I decided I was going to start doing the canon thing. And I feel like it's still currently pretty healthy. Like, Fennec Shand showing up in the Bad Batch, and that's cool, And there was another one I was just thinking of too, that Kira obviously showing up in the comics and stuff, and it's like, sometimes
or Caleb Doom too.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes they don't always have to be kind of what makes sense. It's just that, like, hey, at one point these two characters cross paths, and we're currently in that time frame. Why don't we shine a little focus on one time when Dr. Aphra captured Hera Syndulla, and it's like, how did that go down? And it's like, it's here if you want to read it. It happened. And that's like, oh man, I liked Aphra because it was its own thing, but then they're bringing in Hera, and that's cool. Like, I think that right now, that was a while ago, but I think like right now, currently, it still feels like the crossover and the interconnectivity is still alive and doing well. Yeah. In my opinion, and it's going to get better if we see that crossover even more so into live action. As you start to see the Ahsokas and the Thrawns, show up in live action as well.
All right. Well, we're up against time, so we should probably roll on to the final segment here. But I'll just say, sometimes on these State of Star Wars things, at the end of the conversation, I feel a little, I don't know, vanilla about things. But this, I feel good coming out of this one. So I don't know that, at least from my vantage point, it's hopeful and good. All right, let us go to our final segment of the day. It'll be a pretty quick one, but should be a nice segue after what we were just talking about. So Lacey, what's up?
All right, guys, time for Is the Force with you?
The Force will be with you always.
So Is the Force with you is our segment where we pitch a hypothetical situation and decide whether we buy or sell the idea by saying whether the Force is with us or not. I will read the scenario, and we will each answer whether the Force is with us or not and briefly explain why. So this one, like John said, feeds into what we were just kind of talking about. So the scenario is Dave Filoni will not develop or write another Star Wars animated series. As in, he is the main creative of the series. He can still occasionally write an episode of something. Is the Force with you, John?
Yes. I think, I don't know what the future of Star Wars animation is. We haven't heard yet, but I have a feeling Dave Filoni's not going to be involved anymore. I think this role cements that, his new role. I think he's moving on to bigger things. He wants the big house. He wants the big cars. And all jokes aside, he wants to progress his career. And I'm not saying that means animated is below him at all. I think he still loves it very, very much. He'll still probably oversee aspects of it as what his role is. But I think he is definitely moving towards the bigger fish element of Star Wars.
James?
So the Force is with me, yeah.
The Force is with me on that too. It's a bummer that Dave Filoni will probably never work on animated to the degree that he has before, but it's just an end of an era kind of thing. You know what I mean? It's very clear that he's not leaving Star Wars, and it's very clear that he has just been promoted into a more mainstream storytelling medium. So it kind of is that thing where, you're like, I'm never going to eat a hamburger from Wendy's again because I'm going to get the double hamburger or something. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. It's fun because you realize that you really still are getting Dave Filoni stories, which is what you like. And it's not about the animation thing. It's not, sad that he's just not telling that particular medium anymore, because what people really like about it was that he told good stories, and he will still continue to tell stories. So I think he's moving past animation.
I agree. I think the force is with me on this, that Filoni's done developing and writing Star Wars animated series. I think he's just moved on, and I was talking about it earlier, but I think this is one of the things that kind of solidified it with me, at least, is that the way he acted, presented himself, talked during the Gallery series as not just someone that was involved, but as a partner with Jon Favreau. I think he's just taken this experience on as, this is the next step. This is what I want to be doing. And I think Favreau helped him kind of see that. I'm sure he had a little bit of a like, hey, let's see how this goes. And he's just loved it. You can see it from the way he's behind the camera. And, you know, even when he was Trapper Wolf, like, he's just having a great time. And I don't think he wants to go back to doing animated, because he's now gotten a taste of something different. And I think that any type of creative person, once they try something new, they just want to keep evolving and they don't want to go back. So yeah, that's it. Great.
All right.
Now we're going to go with John.
All right. Well, that is the close to the very end of the show here. Real quick though, we want to thank, I know, we talked about it at the top, but we want to thank our Patreon Spice Runners, our new tier. And so we want to give shout outs to David Probus, Neil Shaw, Double C Chris, Kendall Gellner, and Ryan Wara. Thank you all so much for joining up on that tier. And of course, a thank you to our Patreon generals. As always, we have Carmelo, Andrew Staley, Jeremy Myers, John Reese, Micah Harrison, Jetta Rosewater, Michael Gaines, Paul Olson, Jake Houchins, Jeff Connery, Oliver Lewis, Dave Hornack, Frank Grande, Haz Islam, Joe Ritchie, Darth Hurricane, Timothy Hill, John Charlton, and Val Trichkoff. Thank you all so much for all of your support. You keep the engine running, as do all of our patrons, so we really thank you from the bottom of our hearts. We're so excited to be starting our next phase here and doing some awesome things over there on Patreon. So make sure you go to StarWarsNewsNet.com for all of your Star Wars news, reviews, editorials, information, and more. You could find me on Twitter at Johnny Hoey and StarWarsNewsNet.com, and just like the movies on all audio podcast platforms. Lacey?
People can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Lacey Gillerin.
James?
And you guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at James Bainey, and the Bad Batch Reaction Show coming out tomorrow morning.
Wait, you changed your handle?
What did I say? I said at James Bainey.
You did.
Well, you guys read it. You saw it. It popped up.
I was like, whoa, it happened. All right. Myra Trunks it is. All right. It's late. Give them a break. We hope everyone has a great weekend. We'll, of course, be back with you on Monday morning with another episode right here on TRB. Thanks so much, and we'll see you around, kids.